Hi, welcome to Blue Prism Tutorials. My name is Amir. In the previous session, we learned about the queue management and also we learned how to create a work queue in System tab. Now, in this session, we will learn how to work with work queues using an example. This is the same example worked as part 16, working with action stays. First of all, we'll see what is the business scenario. I want to calculate the total marks of each student of class 10 based on the roll numbers. And also I want to calculate the percentage of each and every student of the class using work queues. Let me switch to flow diagram. If you see on my screen, I'm having the flow diagram where I can get the data of the students' marks and each and everything from the SQL Server database. So first of all, I'm going to connect to my SQL Server database and I'm going to fetch the data by using actions. Okay, then I'm going to add to my queues. Why I'm going to add to my queues? Let's assume I'm having n number of data of students of data in my scenario. Each and every record will take at least of 1 minute to calculate the percentage as well as the total marks, and also it will take to some time to update the data. For each and every record, it will take of 1 minute. If I'm having 10,000 of record, how much time it will take? 10,000 minutes it will take it. No, I'm going to adding the data to the queue by using add queues. So where I'm going to add the queues, once I have fetched the data, I'm going to add the data to the queues. And then what I'm going to do based on first in first out, first I need to get the next item, nothing but next student I want to get it, right? If you see over here, this is the get next item that I'm going to use it as part of that one, and I'm going to store the item ID in the new data item ID. If item ID is not null, then I'm going to calculate the sum of the record, sum of the marks, and also I'm going to calculate, sum of the marks of the student. So there is a business logic that I'm having. Let's assume in the case if there is more than the total number of marks is 600, correct? So if the sum of the marks is greater than 600, then we have to throw an exception. Else we have to calculate the percentage of the result based on the data item. Okay, so this is the business logic. First we need to calculate the sum of the marks, and then I'm going to calculate the percentage based on the result, and then I'm going to mark it as complete of the particular data item ID based on the item ID. If once it has been completed, I'm going to update the record in the database. Whatever the record we have selected, I'm going to update the records, and then finally I'm going to go to the next item to fetch the record. Let's assume if the sum of the marks, unfortunately, fortunately, it is sum of the marks is greater than 600, then I'm going to throw an exception. And based on the exception, I'm going to recover it, and then I'm going to resume it and mark it as exception over there in the item ID, and then I'm going to select the next item ID. Because of if there is a in between roll number ID 3 or 4, if I got an error, if I'm having hundreds of records, I don't want to stop with that exception. I want to select the next item ID, and then I'm going to calculate the sum of the marks of each and every student. But over here, if you see the exception, I'm not going to update the data with the exception. Okay, this is my total flow diagram of which I am having. Why I have shown this flow diagram? Because you'll get an idea how we are going to work with the student marks. Now let me switch to Blue Prism Virtual Workforce. So now I'm going to System, and after that I'm going to click on Workflows, and I'm going to create a new work queue. Okay, what is the work queue I'm going to? If you see over here in our previous session, we have added customer queue. In the same way that I'm going to add a new queue. By default, the name it will come as Q1. Okay, I'm going to give it a name as student marks queue. So at the key name, I'm going to leave it as it is the field one as of now, and I will also tell you what is the maximum number of attempts that we are going to do. Okay, in the later session, we'll see how we are going to retrieve the number of attempts, the maximum number of attempts. Now status is going to be running, and I'm going to applying it. In the key name also, I will explain you in the same session what is the purpose of the field name. Okay, and I'm going to click on apply. If you go to control room, if you observe under the queue management, we are having the queue marks. Okay, if you see, I don't have any queue content as of now because of we have not added anything. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to studio tab and I'm going to create a new process. And I'm say student process. I'm just giving an example as student process, and I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to give the same description, and I'm going to click on finish. Let me go ahead, let me double click on the student process. Let me rearrange them. So as a first step, we need to connect to our database, correct? Let me go to SQL Server Management Studio. If you see, I have connected to the student marks. So let me select start from the student marks. I'm having 7 students over here as of now, and if you observe, results are all are null and the percentage also null. Now what I'm going to do, based on the roll number and the given marks of each and every subject for the particular student, I'm going to calculate results and then percentage. First of all, what I need to do, I need to get all the records, correct? All the records from the database, I need to fetch them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull an action on my canvas and I'm giving name as connectivity. Connectivity to DB. So what is the business object that we are going to take it? Already in our previous sessions, we have dragged VBO data hyphen SQL server. I'm going to drag it and I'm going to selecting it data hyphen SQL server. And the action, if you see, what is the action set connection that I'm going to take it? What is the server name? I'm just giving as localhost because of I'm going to work it with the local host of this one. Or if you have any doubts with that one, go to SQL Server and you can see the properties of the SQL Server. Now, what is the name that we're having? Just copy the name and just give in the process. Okay, what is the server name that we are having? We're just giving whatever the name that we are having over here. What is the database that we are having? We are having sample DB, we have given it. I'm just going to give it as sample DB. So we are using Windows authentication so that we don't want to give anything like, we just want to check it out, the SQL server name and the database as of now that we are going to give it. And what is the outputs? I don't want any outputs as of now. And I'm going to click on OK. So now we are connected with the database. Now what I have to do, I have to fetch the records right from the database. What is the action? I'm just dragging one more action on my canvas and I'm saying fetch DB. In the same way, what is the business object I'm going to take it data SQL server. But over here, if you see, I'm going to get the number of records, right? I'm going to select get collection over here. What is the SQL server? What is the command that I'm going to use it? I'm going to use select query over there. If you see over here, I have already written the select query. We can just copy and paste it over here in the expression. So this output, where I am going to store it. So if you go ahead and validate it, it is fine. Okay. And I'm going to click on OK. Now outputs, if you see the outputs, I'm going to store the results. This is the collection of results, correct? This is nothing but the results that I'm going to store the number of records which I got it from the DB. I'm going to store it in results. If it is success, I'm going to store it in success. If there is any message, I'm going to store it in message. So this is not required as of now, but still I'm just the success I have stored in success, whereas the text message of text I have stored in message. And I'm going to click on OK. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to refresh all them on my canvas. So before going to add to the queue, I'm just going to check it out. My process is working fine or not. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, you can see the results as an output over there, correct? Let me go ahead, let me execute once. It is connecting to my DB. It got successfully fetching the DB. If you see the results, what is happened over there? Let me go ahead, let me check the current values. I'm having all the students with the values of result is null over there. In the sense, my connectivity is successful right now. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to add these results to my queue. So I'm going to drag one more action item, action stays on my canvas. Now what I want to do, I want to work with the queues. Here is the main part comes into picture. Here is the very interesting topic. So add to queues from results. Okay, and I'm going to select the business object over here. If you see in my internal business objects, I'm having work queues. Okay, so if you observe that all the results I'm going to add to my work queues, correct? What is the queue name that I'm going to define over there? Now, if you see student marks queue is the queue which I have defined. The same name we have mentioned in the queues over here. Okay, student marks queue. This is the name which we have to mention. Okay, this is the data collection. If you have any collection over there that you want to mention it, you can go ahead and you can mention it. Okay, what is the name that I have to mention? The results is the thing which I have to mention it. As of now, defer until I'm not going to mentioning anything. Priority, I'm not adding anything. Tags, status, nothing I'm going to mention it. But what is the item IDs? Is this really necessary over here in this add to queues? Absolutely not. But if you want to check it out, what is the item IDs that you know it is going to fetch it when you are going to add queues. Okay, as of now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to store it at item IDs. So what is the queues that we will get it? What are the results that you are having? N number of it is automatically going to generate with the item IDs. You can find it out item IDs over there. Let me go ahead. Let me click on OK. Let me explain once again before going to that. If I'm going to if I'm going to work with work queues, I want to add the results. I want to add the items over there to the add to queue. So what is the queue that I'm having? Student marks queue is the queue which I have been created in system tab, and also which data that I want to add it. I want to add the data which I have fetched from the previous action, that is nothing but fetch db, and I have stored in data results, right? That is the results that I have added. So that's the reason I have dragged that item, dragged that collection over there into my canvas so that it will add to the queues. And then if what are the item IDs that we are having, we have to check it out which item IDs that has been created. You can see over here in the item IDs. Now if you observe, all the item IDs will come into this item ID is empty. It is need not necessary, but still we can go ahead and we are added as of now. Now what I want to do, uh, the n number of item IDs has been added. Now I want to get the next item. Because of I need to process the items from the results, so that what I'm going to do, I'm going to add one more action over here, and I'm going to say get next item from item ID, from item ID or result, from results. Okay, what the business object that we are going to select? Same work queues that I'm going to select it. But over here, if you see, get next item is the action which I want to get it. If you observe, results is having as of now 7 records. Okay, 7 record has been added to add queues, and then I want to add each and every time the queues I want to fetch it. Right now, which is the queue that I'm going to use? And the same queue that student marks queue that I'm going to use it, which we have used in the same session. Okay, key filters and the tag filters I have not using anymore as of now. But item ID, what is the item ID? So whatever the item ID that you're going to get it, you have to store it in item ID. It is the same as the item ID. And the data collection, this is the same data collection which I'm going to use it for the results. And then attempts that I'm not going to store it as of now, because of, if you see, maximum number of attempts that we have given in the system tab, that the same way that we are going to use it over here. And the status text, I don't want to store it, but as of now, what is the status? It is succeeded or failed, that we can store it out over here. Now I have added one more data item over here, and then I'm going to click on OK. Now once you got the item, okay, so we want to check it out based on if you see our functionality. What I'm going to do, is it item ID is null or not? So for that, I'm going to take one decision. What is the decision? If item ID, decision of item ID is null or not. Item ID which you have selected is not null. If it is not null, then you can go ahead and you can we can proceed to calculate the sum of the marks. Now let me go ahead, let me validate it. The validation is success and I'm going to click on OK. Now if it is success, then what I want to do, I want to calculate the sum of the marks. I have pulled calculation stage on my canvas and then I'm going to say sum of marks. So sum of marks, how can we calculate? If you see in my results, I have added the data. So over here we need to change a small thing while we're going to get next item. The outputs that we have to store it not in the data collection. I'm going to say data results. I'm going to add one more item over here as a data results. If you see why I have added in the results having 7 records, whereas get next item, whenever the item it is going to get it, it will store the data results. So each and every single record, it is going to be storing the records. So that we're going to store in data results. Okay. Now this is the unique value that each and every record that I'm having. Now the sum of the marks you have to calculate from the data results dot English, each and every subject that I'm going to sum of the subjects, correct? Don't mind, I'm just copying all these things for the time being, copy pasting and editing it. Okay, if you go ahead and validate it, your expression does not appear to be valid, but there's no issue with that. So because of we are going to get from the data result dot item, that's the reason we are going to get it. Now the sum of the marks, I have to store it where I can store it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take an expression number of marks and I'm going to add new and I'm going to renaming it with the sum of the marks. And I'm dragging and dropping onto my store in results. Okay, the sum of the marks, I'm going to get it in data item. Now click on OK. Now if you see, I will get the sum of the marks. As we discussed, sum of the marks is less than or equal to 600. Okay, most probably 600 is not possible, but sometimes, based on the exceptions we have seen, right? In the real-time scenario, some of the times it is more than 600. That's the reason we're going to put it an exception over here as addition. I'm going to drag one more addition item. Sum of, I'm just simply saying marks greater than 600, then I'm going to throw an exception. Okay, or else I will do it in reverse format, marks is less than 600. Okay, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it as true or false based on the decision. I'm going to drag and drop some of the marks on my expression and I'm going to calculate 600. If you check out the validate, the expression is valid. Let me go ahead and evaluate it. Let me give 500. The test, it is true. If I'm going to give 700, then it is false. Let me close it. Let me click on OK. Now the marks is less than 500. Now I want to calculate the percentage. So again, I'm going to drag one more calculation stage. This is all my business logic. Okay, calculate percentage. So how we are going to calculate the percentage? Sum of the marks divided by 600 into 100. Correct? Is nothing but the percentage. And I'm going to store in percentage again. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert in number itself. I'm going to renaming it and I'm saying as percentage. Okay, and just drag and drop the percentage on my store in results. And then I'm going to click on OK. This is the percentage which we are going to check it out. Correct? If percentage has been completed, then what I want to do? I want to mark it as complete this item ID. I'm going to drag one more action on my stage, on my canvas from the stage, and I'm going to double click on that. So I'm just giving as mark as completed for student, for a single student. So I'm going to use the business object as work queues, and then over here, if you observe mark as completed, mark completed, that what we're having. Which item ID that have completed, which one we got it in the item ID, that we're going to completed it as mark item, correct? So if you observe over here, the item ID we're going to drag and drop, which is a single item ID we have selected. I'm going to drag and drop on my canvas, and I don't want to store any results over there, any outputs, and I'm going to click on OK. But once the market has completed, okay, then what I want to do, I want to update the results onto my in my SQL server, correct? What I want to do, if you see over here, I'm going to drag one more action on my canvas, and I'm going to update student details. This is the business logic, sample business logic that I'm going to creating it as of now. I don't want to use the complex as of now. Okay. And I want to execute that. What is the query? I want to write the update query. Let me show you an SQL server, which is the update query. Okay. If you see, I'm going to update which table, sample SQL server, sample DB of student marks, set result equal to what are the result that we are having. I'm going to add it, and then percentage equal to what are the percentage we got it over there, where based on which what is the main one that we are having on the roll number equal to what are the roll number that we are having. I'm going to copy the same thing over here on my expression. If you see, I'm going to add the number of queues, sorry, the things which I need to add in the result. What is the result that I wanted? I'm already having in the number sum of the marks is my result. I'm going to drag and drop into the set of results. In the same way, the percentage also. I'm going to add the percentage from this sum of the percentage of which we have calculated in the number. And what is the roll number? So the roll number which I need to update from the data results dot roll number, correct? If you are not getting it, please let me know. uh, you know, please post them in the comments so that I will get back to you. Okay, so data results dot roll number, which we got it already. I'm going to updating it. Roll number, we got it. Now, if you go ahead and if you validate it, there's the expression is missing. Why? This is the update, end of the update. Okay, I have to give double quotes. Okay, now the expression is valid. This is the way that we are going to update in the database. So if you observe update sample DB of student marks, set result, what is the result that we got it from the particular item ID that I'm going to collect in sum of marks, and also the updating percentage over here. We forgot to put it as comma, end of this. Okay, comma and percentage. I'm going to remove the comma over here, and after where roll number equal to so and so, and I'm going to click on OK. So the update is going to be success. Now I want to check it out, is it success or not? Storing in update success. I'm just giving a name as update success. And if you want to store any messages, you can go ahead and you can store it. As of now, I don't want much more. And if you see update success, that I can see over here. And then once single out of 7 records, 1 record has been success, and then I need to get the next item. Okay, if let's assume if I don't have any item IDs, then I'm going to an end. I'm going to drag this one and I'm going to an end. This is the simple happy path scenario that I'm going to add it as of now. Let me go ahead and let me connecting it. If you see over here item ID is not null, then yes, then I'm going to sum of the marks. If it is less than 600, yes, then I'm going to calculate the sum of the marks, percentage of the marks, and then once the percentage has been calculated, now make marking as complete. Then once mark as complete, I'm going to update the database. Once the database updated, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the next item. If there is no, if all record has been successfully completed, item ID comes as null, then I'm going to an end. This is the totally happy path scenario. Okay, as of now, I have not added any kind of exceptions as of now. Okay, just I have connected to the database. Let me explain once again this process. First, I am going to connect to the connecting to my database, and then I'm going to fetch the records, adding to the queues these records to my queues. Okay, and from the queues, I'm going to get the next item based on the get next term from the work queues. If item ID is not null, that's the mean I'm going to pick up one item ID and I'm going to calculate the sum of the mark for the particular item ID which I have added from the add queue. So if the sum of the marks, this is the totally the business logic wherever we can get it. I'm not using the biggest example. This is the small example that I'm going to get it. And if you see the sum of the marks I have calculated and then marks is less than 600, then I'm going to calculate the percentage of the records. Sometimes we'll get an exception over here. I will show you the exception also in the same section. This is the uh, unhappy part that I were going to check it out over here. Then what I'm going to do, I mark it as complete. Once the percentage has been calculated, I'm going to mark it as complete from the work queue of the particular item ID. And then I'm going to update the some of the records, update the results as well as the percentage in my database. Then I'm going to get next item once it has been completed. If there's no item ID, then in the work queues, then I'm going to an end. Before going to run this session, what I'm going to do, I'm going to the work queues from the control room or queue management. If you see already the student mouse is already there. Now keep an eye over here. And this is where we are going to working it with the main session. Okay, as part of this session. Let me go ahead, let me save it as of now. I'm going to simply saving as save work queue and I'm going to save the changes. Now, if there is any errors, let me go ahead and let me see the errors. Mark is less than no link for the decision. Okay, what does this mean? If there is no, there should be an end. As of now, what I'm going to do, I'm just using an exception over here, and I'm going to double click on that the exception marks. I'm just simply saying as marks exception type. I'm going to give it as business exception, and business marks should be less than 600. This is my exception as of now. So to avoid that error, that I'm going to added one more exception over here, that is throw exception. That is the exception that I have used, and I'm going to link it from marks to from this decision stage to marks exception. Let me go ahead. I'm having one error. What is this error? Invalid exception cannot be added to unknown. There is no problem with this one because of we have calculated the sum of the marks over here. Let me go ahead. Let me save it once again. I'm just simply going save it, save the changes. Now let me go ahead. Let me run the process. So if you observe the add to queues, so I have given a breakpoint over here. Okay. Now let me go ahead. Let me go to virtual workforce control tab. If you see over here the system tab, you can see the item IDs over here. How many records has been added? If you see 7 records, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. These are all nothing but statuses of the particular item ID. Okay, what of the records has been added over here, it will goes to control room in the format. Let me give an brief about this below tab. Okay, below section. This is nothing but the status of the particular rows. So the status is nothing but the pending and the completed, or else if there is any exceptions, that will comes as a status over here. But the representation of the diagram or the stage, it will show over here. Now if you see the first item has been locked, that the mean out of all the items, 7 items has been added over here. It is going to fetch the one of the item over here, that is nothing but the first in first out concept. It has been locked over there, but we don't know which item has been locked, but we'll see later on based on the field or the key name. Based on the key name, we will get the records over here. Okay, now if you see the status is one item has been locked because it is ready to processing it and we can't change it anything. It has been locking over there. Then the remaining items are pending status. If you see, the three dots is representing the pending state, and also we can see the priorities over here, and also we can see the status tags. If there is any message, we can go ahead and we can see the tags over here. And the resources is nothing but which system it is running. If you see the resources in the previous session management, we are having only one resource as of now, that is nothing but my PC. Correct, it is working on my PC. You can see the exceptions over here already, because of when I'm going to refreshing it n number of times, you are going to adding it, we can find it all the tags over here. Now, if you want to clear it, select all, and then you're going to deleting it. As of now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to deleting all the things as of now. So let me go ahead and let me click on OK. Now, if you have any resources, you're going to add the resources and the attempts, how many number of attempts that you are having. Let me go ahead, let me run once again. Breakpoint has been reached. Okay. Now, if you go ahead and now it is going to be item ID, it is going to be selecting it. The item ID, if you see over here, this is the first item that I have selected, correct? Now, if you see over here, what is the item ID? If you see out of all items that I'm selecting one item ID, that item ID we have stored somewhere, correct? I forgot to drag and drop. No, we are already having on the top of that one. Let me drag that one to my below one. Now, if you see the item ID, it is a 16-bit GeoID format. So the sum of the marks for the particular thing has been calculated. The total for the first record. If you see, item IDs are 1 out of 7. It has been selected one item ID. The result has been stored for the particular record data results. And the sum of the marks has been calculated. And the percentage is 98.333.3. That they know the percentage of the 590. Now, if you see the update, the record has been selected, updated in the database. How can we say that one? Let me go ahead. Let me check it out. The sum of the mark. The records. If you see, the Jack is the first student based on first in first out. The record has been updated. If you see, the results is 590 and the percentage is 980. Which one we have stored? Or here, if you see, the sum of the marks 590 and the percentage 98.33. But here, that have given as in format and the data types. That's the reason it has been taken only this 98 is the percentage it has been taken. So there's no problem with that one as of now. Okay, this is the logic. Whenever we want, we can check it out. Now, the main thing is that if you go to the control room and the particular system queue, what is the thing? What happened over there? Let me go ahead, let me refresh it. If you see, the item has been succeeded. Okay, nothing but it has been completed, and you can see which row has been completed. We are not identifying it, but the item has been completed. When it has been completed, if you see over here, the maximum time, the completed time is so and so time 7:34:57 a.m. It has been completed. Is there any exception? No exception as of now. And then it is going ahead and it is completing it. Okay, in the same way, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the breakpoint as of now, and then I'm going to running it, because of this is the happy path scenario. So if you want to make it fast, go ahead and make it fast. Because of this is the happy path scenario, so it has been calculated all the 7 records. That's the reason I have make it as a fast, and now I'm going back to my normal. Now, if you see all the queues have been completed or not, let me go ahead to the once again to the system queue, student marks queue, and let me refresh it. If you see, all the item IDs have been completed successfully. Okay, this is the happy path scenario, and you can see all the things over here. Now, but we don't know which item ID has succeeded successfully, correct? So on what basis, if there is any exception has came into picture, or on what basis that I can go ahead and check it out, which item ID has failed. Now for the time being, what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear this work queue. Okay, I'm going to selecting all, and then I'm going to deleting it. For the student marks, each and everything has been deleted. Now the record has been updated or not. Let me go ahead and let me check it out. Yes, the results and the percentage have been updated successfully in the happy path scenario. But I want to throw an exception. Okay, what will happen if I'm going to throw an exception? Let me go ahead, let me make a small change over here. I'm going to updating back to my database. Okay, and I'm going to give the English for the roll number 3. I'm going to give it as the marks as 150, and then I'm going to updating it. Now what will happen? The marks is greater than, if you see over here, what will happen in the manual path, manual scenario, the sum of the marks is greater than 600. Then we're going to throw an exception over here, correct? Let me go back to my process studio for the edit student process. Let me stop it as of now. If you see the marks is for the roll number 3 is greater than 600, I'm going to throw it as an exception over here, and then I'm going to drag and drop the recover. Okay, recover and resume. I'm going to use these exceptions, and I'm going to use one more calc over here to store the output in the particular item. What is the error? I'm going to throw it in, storing in ed. Okay, so I'm going to recover one and the calc one that I'm going to store. I'm just simply saying exception store. Okay, what is the exception store? What are the exceptions that we got it? Exception details. I'm going to drag and drop, and I'm going to store it in ed. Ed is nothing but exception details, and the text I'm going to storing it, and then I'm going one more action that I'm going to do. What is the action? Mark as exception. Okay, whenever you got an exception, okay, you are not going to update anything in the student details. You are just going to mark it as exception. What is the action? Mark as exception for the particular record. And the business object, you are going to storing it. You are going to select work queues. And over here, if you see mark exception, what is the item ID which you are going to get it? From the collections, from the collections itself that we are having, or if we are having some more item IDs over here, that is the text, sorry. I'm going to item ID, I'm going to drag and drop, and I'm not doing any kind of retry. Retry is nothing but if you're going to, this is the flag which you are trying to give it as true or false. If you are making it as true, then what will happen? By default, it will be true. If you're not making it as true, then what will happen? It won't retry the mechanism. Okay. Unfortunately, I have dragged onto the wrong exception. Let me delete that. I'm going to drag once again onto the item ID. Okay, is there any outputs? If the new item ID, if you want to store it, okay, you can go ahead and you can do it. But as of now, we don't require because of we're having the scenario to get the get next item. Okay, what is the exception reason? Whatever the ed that you are having, you are going to give it that the ed. But for the checking purpose, that you are going to give it in the exception over there, which we can see over here. Now I'm going to click on OK. So I'm going just using the block over here. What are the exceptions that we got it in the same block that we are going to do that. And I'm going to linking from recover one to exception store to resume. And after that, I'm going to connecting to my mark as exception, get next item. Okay. Let me connect my links. Mark as exception to error, to get next item. So even if you got it an error, I don't want to stop my functionality. I want to, I want to run as it is my function. Okay, I want to get the next item. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to save it as mark as exception, and I'm going to saving it. Now let me run once again. If you see my canvas, okay, if you see all the items has been added, let me go ahead, let me refresh it. Now if you see 7 items have been added. Now we know that one, in the happy path scenario that all the things has been completed. But if you see the marks is greater than 300, then what will happen? So two items, the third item has been picked up. There's a greater than 600 marks. That's the reason it is going to exception. If you see over here in the ED that is showing as X marks should be less than 600. So it is not fetching. Now you can see marks should be less than 600. So this is the exception that what we got it, and we are going to make it as mark as exception, and then I'm going to proceed in the further steps. Correct? And if we see over here in my control room in the marks queue that all the things has been completed. But if you see the for the particular exception for the particular record, we got the exception. What is the exception? Exception mark should be less than 600, which I have given in the process. Okay, that is the one. It is error that we got it. Now, how can I know that for the particular item it is validating? Okay, let me go ahead. If you see the process has been completed, now I'm going back to my system tab over there. In the system tab, let me go ahead for the work queues. On which basis this is the key name I want to identify it, correct? If you see the key name I have given as field null, now I'm saying roll number basis. So what is the column name that roll number that I'm having? I want to get all the things. Okay. Now in the retry also that I will tell you, as of now that the key name is nothing but the key name. We can go ahead and we can check it out in the control tab. Let me save it first. Let me apply it. Let me go to once again this control tab. And after that, if you see over here, this is the item key which I am going to mention, which row that I'm going to. But now what I have done on the roll number that I have added this. Okay, now all the record has been completed successfully, but there's an exception also. Let me go ahead, let me make the fast it, and let me run once again. Now let me go ahead and let me refresh this control queue in between. If you see, now what I'm going to do, there's the items that have been added. 1, 2, 3. Number of with the roll number 3, I got the exception. So that is the reason we got the exception because of 600, more than 600. Now let me go ahead and let me check it out in the database. If you see the number of roll number 3 is not updated because of the number of marks is greater than 600. That's the reason it is not added. Now we got the exception very easily to identify that because of this exception details. Correct? But how many times that we have to retry the same mechanism? Okay, if you observe over here in my queue, the number of attempts is only 1. If I want to increase the number of attempts, okay, by any reason, right now we got the exception due to 600 marks, but in real time scenario, what will happen? Sometimes the system may be down, or else sometimes there is no proper information. Maybe the data is processing at that time. It is taking a little bit time to processing it. Maybe there's a n number of n number of reasons to get these kind of exceptions. But I want to increase the number of exceptions. At that time, what I'm going to do, I'm going back to my system and work queues, and I'm going to selecting marks. Over here, if you see maximum attempts, I'm going to right now n number of attempts that you can do it. As of now that I'm making it at 3, and I'm going to applying it. What will happen with this? If you're going to retrying it, the maximum time that it is going to retry is number of times is 3. Let me go ahead, let me reprocess it once again. So I have done it in the same fast mode. Okay, let me refresh it once again. Now if you see the records or get item queues has been added with the roll number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you see the exception, that is already one first time it has been attempted. Let me go ahead and let me refresh it. You can see the number of times is 1, 2, 3, the number of records attempted over there. Okay, so the maximum time it has been attempted is 3 times, and then it's gone to the next process, and then it's fetches the remaining records and then goes on. I hope in this session we learned how to add a queue from the system tab. Okay, so by the work queues we have added the work queue, by we have given the student marks and the key name also, what is the purpose of the key name that you have seen, and the maximum number of attempts that we have seen over there in system tab. Going to queues, okay, what are the item queue, what is the status. Status is nothing but this is the pending or nothing but is it completed, all the things. It is a representation of over here at the runtime, and the resources and the number of free times. If you see the exception also, exception date, when it has been exception has got it, what is the reason behind that, we had seen all these things. Okay, if you want to show the positions in queues also, you can go ahead and you can see the positions over there. What is the position of the queues? You can check it out all these things over there in the queue format. If you want to remove the positions, you can go ahead and you can remove the positions. And also we have seen how to add items to work queue, and how also we can fetch that data from the database, add to work queues, and after that getting the next item, we are going to calculate the business logic over there, and I am going to mark it the work queue as the particular item ID as completed, and I'm going to update in the database. If there is any exception, how I am going to catch the exception, mark as the exception is the thing which I have been added. This is the biggest session that we have taken as of now. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any queries related to this concept, please post them in the comment section.